Dear students, welcome to the video lesson of An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, written by Stephen Spender. Let us learn something about the author. Stephen Spender is an English poet essayist. He is proclaimed as a socialist and a pacifist. He raised his voice against capitalism and social injustice. His work was concentrated on themes of social injustice and the class struggle. So basically, he was socialist. He had written about social injustice. Now, let's have a brief introduction about the poem. This poem deals with the social injustice and class inequalities and attacks on the capitalistic economies in which the rich are becoming richer and more problems and miseries mire the lives of the poor. They are devoid of any opportunity and have become prey to social injustice. In this poem, Spender demands equal opportunities for education for the poor and the underprivileged. Children, list differences between the two pictures on your screen. Yes, you are right. On the left side of the slide are privileged and well-to-do children sitting in a flourished classroom. On the right side of the screen are slum children who are malnourished and underprivileged. See children, as the title suggests, this is an elementary school classroom situated in a slum area. Children, read the stanza 1 carefully. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. The poet describes the children who study in an elementary school which is set up in a slum area. Here, the poet says that the faces of children are dull and without any energy. These children are compared to unwanted weed, rootless weeds, unwanted, uncared plants. Here the writer wants to say that these children seem to be unwanted like the unwanted weeds which grow on their own in the fields. The tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. Then he describes a tall girl who seems to be burdened by poverty and may be ill or exhausted. There is another boy who is so weak and thin that he has been compared to sheet of paper. The boy's eyes reflect greed and he wants to achieve everything. Then he describes another student who is physically disabled. As you can see on your screen, children, the poet says that this boy is unlucky because he inherited a disease from his father due to which he has a deformed body. At the back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. Children, the stanza describes the slum children sitting in the classroom as we have already discussed the paper seeming boy, tall girl and the one with twisted bones. Here comes on one more character who is a bit different, who sits lonely in a dim, dark area at the back of the class. The poet could see his eyes, which were bright and full of a dream. He was not paying attention to the class. It seemed as if he was rather interested in playing with squirrels in the tree house. Now, we will see the gist of the stanza. This poem by Stephen Spender gives a vivid description of a school classroom in a slum and the children in the class. The faces of the children are dull, lifeless. Their appearance shows that they are unwanted. The children have gloomy faces, their heads hanging low in sadness due to being poor. They have diseased bodies inherited from the parents and are victims of poverty. At the dim end of the room sits one child who has bright eyes which seems to dream of playing outside with squirrels. He is different from the others in the dim dark room. Now, read the stanza 2 carefully. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized doom, riding all cities, belled Flory, Tyrolese valley. Here the poet describes the walls of the school. They are cream in color like the color of sour cream. This means that the walls are not clean, they have not been painted recently. The walls are covered with different charts and images that must have been donated by different people. There is a picture of Shakespeare on the wall. His head, which is bald, looks like the sun rising at the horizon. At the back of daybreak, the sun is rising at the horizon and is semicircular like a dome shape. It seems to be behind all the cities. There is a picture of the famous Tyrolese valley which has beautiful flowers. Here is the picture of civilized dome which is symbolic of development. Open-handed man, awarding the world its world. And yet, for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all the futures painted with a fog. A narrow streets sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Children, there is the image of a map which helps all in its own way. But for these children, the map of the world is irrelevant because the slum where they live is different from what is shown in the map. Their world is only what they see out of the window of the classroom, the slum. Their future is full of darkness. Their future is compared to a narrow street, which means that there is no wide scope available for their future growth. These children are far away from the radiant light of knowledge and education. Now, children, see these pictures and analyze. The first one is the world map. The second one is the picture of slum area. The third picture is of a beautiful valley. And the fourth one is narrow streets sealed in with a lead sky. Now, let's have a gist of the stanza 2. The walls of the classroom are dirty. People have donated different charts, images which have been put up on them. One of them is a picture of the great playwright Shakespeare also. His head is bald and resembles the rising sun. The next poster is of Tyrolese Valley, full of churches and flowers which symbolizes the beautiful creations of the nature. Another one is map of the world. To these children, the world is not the one shown in the picture, but it is the one they see out of the classroom window. Now children, carefully read the stanza 3. Children, here in this poem, Shakespeare is described as wicked. The poet further says that these children living in the slum area have faced so many hardships that they feel every other person to be their enemy. For them, Shakespeare is an evil man because he portrays a world of optimism and hope and love in his writings, which is complete contrast to the bleak future and a life full of gloom and despair, which the slum children led. They don't find the map to be a good example also. The map on the wall gives them false hopes as it makes them aware of the beautiful world given by God and makes them feel sorry that they are far away from this world which is full of opportunities. This scenic beauty portrayed in the map cannot give any respite to them from their despair. Instead, it only adds to their miseries. They were never liked or loved by anyone. Therefore, they hate almost everyone. Further, they feel deprived of all existing sensations of the sun, the ships, and the emotions of love. The ship, sun, and love symbolize joy and happiness, which these children cannot only dream of. Their desire forces them to snatch and steal what they can't have and thus end up as criminals. The cramped holes. These slum children live in cramped holes. Cramped means dingy and congested huts, striving and struggling for survival in the small dirty rooms from fog to endless night. from foggy mornings till long, endless nights, trying to meet both ends meet, trying to earn their daily bread. The poet adds, these kids are so thin that one can easily see their bones through the thin layer of the skin. Their skin is like the thin layer of cloth, and the bones beneath are visible through the skin. These kids suffer from malnutrition. They wear spectacles of steel with mended glass, means discarded spectacles by the rich, mended, repaired, and worn. The map of their future are already blotted with glue. Slums are the reality of these children, their home, where they spend their life. See, children, how thin they are. Gist of stanza 3. Comprehending this picture is beyond their abilities. They hate everyone, and for them, Shakespeare is a wicked man. As no one loves them, they dislike everyone. The desire for love and acceptance forces them to do crimes like stealing. The children are so skinny that their clothes are like a skin and their skeleton is visible through them. This is due to lack of nutrition. They have worn looking glasses made of steel, which are cheap, heavy, and uncomfortable. Their chances of fulfilling their dreams and moving out have been further reduced by building bigger slums. Until they come out of the slums, they will never know what the world looks like. The government system which makes these slums is the cause for these people to live in them. The education system is such that it forces them to live in these slums. They are not given the right to dream beyond these slums. They have been restricted to the slums. Read the stanza 4 carefully. The poet says that the government should take notice of the problems being faced by these kids. There is a need to break the boundaries which are put on them due to poverty. The unsuitable environment of the slums has blocked all their gates to progress. They are lying shut like catacombs, underground graves. These obstacles must be broken. As this will take them away from fog to azure sky, the poet here wants to say that in this way the kids can be taken away from the darkness of their present to a bright future. So, children, he wants these kids to experience the sands and the beauty of nature, as this will lead to a desire of gaining knowledge. They will then go through the white and green leaves. Here white and green leaves depicts books and green leaves depicts nature. This will then result in their progress and they will be able to paint a bright future for themselves. History is there whose language is the sun. The poet ends on a note of positivity and wants opportunities to be available to these children. The people who strive for knowledge are the ones who create history. The ones who are let free are the ones who will create history. People who outshine others, who glow like the sun, who break free from the constraints of the restricted life are the ones who create history. So finally, here is the gist of the stanza 4. The poet requests the authorities to allow these children to go out of these slums so that the maps on the walls of the classroom become a reality for them. They should be taken to the green fields rather than the dim slums. The sunny, warm sands of the beaches and the bright blue sky will instill a hunger for knowledge in their minds. Then they will absorb all of it. Then these children will become economically empowered. The poem ends with a powerful line. Those who make history are the ones who shine like the sun. Children, here are the various poetic devices used in the poem stanza wise. You can go through these. Here are some of the important questions for you. Just go through them thoroughly and try to answer on your own.